Welcome to today's Explainer. We're looking at a truly unprecedented situation unfolding across the country right now. It's late August 2026, and the United States is locked in this massive, multi-front battle against a staggering wave of wildfires. Today, we're going to break down the latest incident data, parse through the regional weather drivers, and analyze exactly where the front lines are drawn. We're taking a structured, macro-to-micro approach to really wrap our heads around the sheer scale of this environmental crisis. Okay, let's dive into this. 7,651,605. That is the number of acres that have burned across the United States so far in 2026. To put that into perspective for you, that's an area larger than the entire state of Maryland, completely scorched. And that mind-boggling acreage, it's the result of over 50,239 individual wildfires. Remember, these aren't just statistics we're talking about. These are landscapes, habitats, and communities that are being dramatically altered by fire. Here's our roadmap for today's Explainer. We'll start with a macro look at the national wildfire crisis, then examine the weather fueling the flames, before zooming into our regional theaters, the Northwest under siege, the Great Basin and Rockies, and finally the Southwest heat wave. Section 1. The National Wildfire Crisis. A nation at level 5. Now, what's really interesting about this is what it actually takes to operate at preparedness level 5. Consider this. We currently have 78 completely uncontained large fires and over 22,700 personnel deployed nationwide. We aren't just relying on local fire departments here. A crisis of this scale requires a massive multinational coalition. Australia and New Zealand have actually sent 3 incident management teams and 270 personnel just to support the Northwest and Great Basin. The U.S. military is actively deployed as well. We've got 240 soldiers from the 1st Battalion, 23rd Infantry Regiment out of Joint Base Lewis McChord on the ground fighting the Little Giant Fire. And looking at the sky, we have highly specialized C-130 air tankers from the Air National Guards of Colorado, Nevada, and California dropping retardant on the front lines. It is a unified logistical front on a truly massive scale. Section 2. Fueling the flames. Weather. The environmental catalyst driving all of this. We're dealing with a dangerous tale of 2 climates right now. Up in the Intermountain West and Pacific Northwest, an upper trough is pushing through. This is bringing temperatures in the low to mid-90s, but more importantly, scattered, fast-moving thunderstorms with very little rainfall paired with breezy winds. You know what that means? Dry lightning. It's literally the perfect ignition source paired with wind to just fan the flames. Then, down in the desert Southwest, it's a completely different kind of extreme. We're talking baking temperatures between 100 to 115 degrees, with relative humidity plummeting to near 10%. The vegetation is essentially baked dry, turning the entire region into a giant tinderbox. Section 3. The Northwest under siege. Let's zoom in on Washington and Oregon. This weather dynamic is wreaking absolute havoc in Washington state, where crews are up against massive 6-figure acreages. Just think about this data. The Sinlahaken fire has scorched over 154,000 acres and is only 47% contained. Kaiser Canyon is largely handled at 98% containment, which is incredible given its huge 138,000-acre footprint. But the most critical threat right now, that's the Little Giant Fire. Over 140,000 acres burned and a concerningly low 15% containment. And it's not just the size of the Little Giant Fire that's concerning, it's the sheer aggression. On the ground, incident commanders are reporting active flanking, group torching, and spotting. In plain English, this means the fire is moving dynamically along its sides, entire groups of trees are literally exploding into flames simultaneously, and embers are being carried by the wind to start brand new fires way ahead of the main front. It's a violent, volatile force of nature. Moving south into Oregon, the numbers get even larger. The Big Grass Fire is a staggering 500,000 acres. That is a truly monumental footprint. Thankfully, crews have established an 89% containment line there. But the Grasshopper Fire on the Mount Hood National Forest is sitting at over 93,000 acres with 76% containment, and reports indicate it's still making active uphill runs. When fire hits a slope, it preheats the fuels above it, allowing it to move incredibly fast. Section 4. Great Basin and Rockies, a massive geographic theater. So, the crucial point is this. Scattered across the rugged, really inaccessible terrain of the Great Basin and Rockies, total acreages might seem a bit smaller than those behemoths up in the Northwest, but containment numbers tell the real story of the threat level. Take Montana's Sand Creek Fire. It's over 31,000 acres, which is substantial for sure, but it is only 7% contained. In Idaho, the Cascade Fire has burned 4,100 acres with absolutely no containment reported yet. These are deeply entrenched fires that pose prolonged, extremely difficult threats to the surrounding areas. This direct observation from the windmill fire in Montana perfectly captures why these fires are so incredibly hard to contain: active wind-driven runs, spotting, and group torching. Remember that breezy weather system we talked about earlier? The wind acts as an engine here. It's physically pushing the fire across the landscape way faster than firefighters can safely build containment lines ahead of it. However, this region also shows where strategies are working beautifully. Nevada's bug fire has surpassed 93,000 acres, yet crews have achieved an incredible 94% containment. Same with the Rocky Canyon fire in Utah, sitting pretty at 96% containment. Even the massive Aspen Acres fire in Colorado, which crossed that daunting 100,000 acre threshold, is 77% contained, with crews successfully reducing its behavior down to mostly just creeping and smoldering. Section 5. The Southwest Heat Wave, California, Arizona, and New Mexico. Down in the Southwest, the raw acreages are definitely much lower than what we saw up north. MP18 in California is just over 7,600 acres. Frijoles in New Mexico is about 15,000 acres. But these specific fires are highly concerning because of their close proximity to where people actually live. The MP18 fire on the Hoopa Valley Indian Reservation and the timber fire near Big Sur are actively threatening residences and critical communications infrastructure. A 6,000-acre fire is deeply critical when it's burning right at the edge of a community. And this brilliantly illustrates the underlying danger threatening the entire region right now: the total lack of recovery. With the high of 113 degrees in Phoenix and the overnight low only dropping to a stifling 91 degrees, the environment simply cannot bounce back. When you combine this level of severe, relentless heat with humidity dropping near 10%, the fuels stay critically dry 24 hours a day. That means the risk of new, explosive ignitions remains extraordinarily high across the entire Southwest. Which brings us to the core of this explainer. The numbers we've looked at today are historic. When it takes an international coalition, military deployments, and massive logistical networks just to hold the line against 7.6 million acres of burning terrain, we have to look toward the future. The data clearly shows that the climate catalysts driving these fires aren't slowing down anytime soon. So the question we have to leave you with today is this: with 7.6 million acres burned and our vital reliance on international and military aid, how must our approach to wildfire management evolve to combat nature on this massive of a scale?